Before the interview started, we were told that we had to change up the questions from knife crime to violent crime, as they didn't like the fact that it was pinpointed at one topic in general and felt that they could get in trouble as it could get controversial.
I'm Inspector Tony Richards, the Station Commander for Stratford Station for British Transport Police.
As an officer of the law, what are some of the challenges you have experienced this year with crime?
The main challenge we've had this year with crime has been violent crime. Violent crime is increasing on the rail network. Stratford itself has seen an increase in violent crime. The majority of it is what we would consider to be low-level crime, albeit that we classify it as violent crime. So it might be a push or a shove, but that's still classified as an assault. So people may not have significant noticeable injuries as a result of it, but all the same they've still been assaulted. So the main challenge for us is an increase in identifiable violence.
As a transport police, have you guys implemented anything that helps to reduce crime?
At Stratford itself, we've introduced what we call Operation Engulf, which is an operation which we focus on here at Stratford, focusing on violent crime, trying to run operations to identify people that particularly are carrying weapons, to take those weapons from them. We've had a number of successes in relation to that throughout this year. We work that alongside the Metropolitan Police, who police the surrounding area around this station. We use lots of different tactics to do that. Sometimes it's highly visible police officers, sometimes it's plainclothes police officers that you wouldn't know there. We have different powers that we can use, so you may have heard of Section 60 search powers, where we are given an authority by our Assistant Chief Constable to search anybody who we believe may be carrying a weapon within the area at that time.
Why do you think that crime has increased in London specifically?
There are a number of things that we need to look at when we look at rising crime, because it's all about the statistics and how the statistics are counted to start with. So crime rises sometimes as the police get more sophisticated in how they record crime. We encourage people more to report crime, so we have a better understanding of what's going on around us. And I think as we do that, people are more likely to tell us about things that happen to them. Some of the things that they might tell us about, ordinarily they wouldn't have ever bothered telling the police, but we're actively encourage them to do it. On the rail network, and particularly here at Stratford, Stratford Station is getting busier, and so I think lots of people who come through the station may experience crime more because of the frustration of being in a very crowded place and being pushed and jostled a little bit as they're waiting for their trains and things like that.
This year alone, London has seen over 127 offences involving knives, and most of them are teenagers from 18 and over, and some are even as young as 10. This is why we have decided to get an opinion from a college social worker from East London on the reasons why so many young people are affected by this crime and what can be done to help those in danger. How do you feel about mostly young people being affected by knife crime?
So in my job as a counsellor at New Vic, I've been working here for 18 years. So I see knife crime affecting young people in many different ways. For me, the most significant is grief. So I see a lot of young people who have known friends or family members who've died. So it's struggling to deal with their loss. And often it's repeated, so that it's not just one person. They know lots of people, and it's how can you come to terms with that when someone your own age has been murdered? So that's the emotional kind of aspect of it. And then the other way is people being very fearful in the areas that they live, about going out and about being safe and about being on their own, particularly young women, but also young men, because they're significantly at risk as well from gang allegiances and being in the wrong place at the wrong time, looking the wrong way. And obviously there's a racial aspect to this, because young men of colour are much more at risk than young white men. So there's looking at all those areas of discrimination and racism in society and how that affects you, because obviously that has a really big impact on your mental health, how you feel about yourself and your identity and your confidence. And it's really hard if you feel that you are more at risk of dying because of discrimination, prejudice, inequality in society. So there's loads and loads of issues that could affect somebody and their well-being and their mental health that could come up in counselling.
As part of the college council, what have you implemented to help out people involved in knife crime?
Well, as a counsellor at college, I was involved in setting up, I can't remember how many years ago, quite a few years ago, we set up Life Not Knife. We came up with that message that let's focus on life and health and well-being and promoting confidence and people's capacity to be resilient and not to feel that they have to get involved in gangs or in crime as a way to protect themselves, as a way to feel stronger. Because if you feel strong internally, that can carry you through. You don't have to, you can say no to certain types of peer pressure. But obviously it's really hard. If you live in certain areas, it's unavoidable. So we have to look at things like that. So we invited people in, like from the ambulance service, to look at the reality of knife crime and what happens when you carry a knife, and the police, and how often, you know, a knife can be turned against you, so it actually puts you more at risk to carry a knife. But then I also did some stuff around looking at conflict resolution, like how to de-escalate conflict situations, so it doesn't get to the point of being physically harmed.
Personally, what advice would you give a young person who might be involved in knife crime or is planning to?
So if someone's planning to be involved in knife crime or carrying a knife, my advice would be to think seriously about why you're carrying a knife, what the consequences would be. And that means thinking about who you are, what your hopes for yourself are, what your dreams are, and also taking into account how kind of societal pressures, not just peer pressures, but there's lots of pressures from society on young people to be certain ways, particularly young men. And obviously young men of colour also have a lot more pressure on them to be certain ways and are discriminated against and live in an unequal society. So they are more at risk. So I guess if I would be saying that you've got to think about what's going on here, take a step back, don't fall into those traps, believe in yourself, build up your own self-confidence, your own identity as a young man or a young woman or a person of colour, and deal with it in kind of political ways, but don't let it get to you and destroy your self-esteem and feel that the only way you can do it is to have a knife, because that's only going to lead to a worse situation for you down the line. So it's about taking a step back, seeing the bigger picture, and also going inwards and working on your own inner strength and your own inner confidence.
So what I've learned so far is that knife crime has increased and affected mostly young people due to the lack of things for teenagers to do. And this leads to more teenagers using knives to join gangs and criminal activities to make money. But on the other hand, it gets more political as law enforcement and politicians blame social media and other forms of mediums to make excuses. And this is not helping the problem as it fuels it.